Chapter 67 to 72. Einar's POV. Since Mordred's existence could cause problems, so I have to hide her from others' eyes. So I went to the round table to attend the meeting. I didn't talk to anyone there and remained indifferent to everyone. My presence made an awkward atmosphere, but I just want to get a job done. It was not pleasant for me either. Consider if you have to attend the board of general meeting and the CEO is the girl that cheated on you. Anyway, since I want a place that requires work, I naturally took a small territory at the southern edge of this island. It was the perfect place I was looking to spend a year with Mordred. Arg, why are we using horses when you could just fly? Shut up, I said and smacked that brat's head. Ouch. Why do you always hit me? If you ask another question, I will hit you even more. Okay. I was on a horse and heading towards a small city called Jontun. On my back was Mordred, who doesn't know when to stop talking. She was nagging me for quite a while as to why I was doing all of this. I don't know why, but except for her looks, she didn't inherit even a single elegance from Arthurian. Even Morgan was a proper lady. She sounds like your daughter though. It was Elaine whom I ignored. I have a good memory and I knew perfectly well that my dick never tasted the forbidden fruit in its entire life. Anyway, there are several reasons as to why I choose another place other than my own territory. First, I didn't want to find out what I am doing and with whom I am interacting. In my territory, people knew me, so it will be hard to hide Mordred's existence, especially from Galahad, who was leading my territory on my behalf. Then how long I have to wear this collar? She was wearing a jade collar around her neck that I made using several primordial runes. Another reason why I was going to such a small and deserted place was to hide Mordred from Merlin's clairvoyance. Living with him, I learned how his clairvoyance works. It doesn't give a very specific of the future, but it gives him the end result. Although he would eventually find out about Mordred, I don't think he would spill any beans, considering how shallow his advice was. So I made a plan to make a bounded field to stop Merlin's clairvoyance from reaching me. The collar on Mordred's neck was specifically made to hide her. Would you keep quiet for a second? I massaged my head. I think it would be a good experience in raising children. Arturia. I sighed. Whenever I think about my future, she always comes to my mind. That was quite troublesome. Soon we reached the city. The weather was cold but warm enough to sustain life. It was dawn, so we first went to the chieftain's office. I asked Mordred to wait outside so that I could talk to the person in charge. Since it was the southern part, most of the civilians were Saxons, but as expected from the people's king, she placed a Briton noble in charge of this place. He happily handed me the authority of the city and went out for leave. When I came back, I saw Mordred chasing a cat like a cat. This brat. I shook my head. Though she looks like a young teen, she was hardly a year old. So her mentality of being like a child was not a surprise, but still hard for me to accept since she was more of a homunculus than a proper human. I then took Mordred to a small mansion that meant for our proper residence. Hoo-hoo. I am finally out of that shithole. Mordred hooped when we entered and I placed a bounded field to warm the mansion. Language, Mordred. I scolded her dryly. But you also mentioned capital like that. Ugh. I can't believe that she replied with a comeback. I seriously need to control my language too. Anyway, there are warm clothes for you. Change it while I prepare dinner. I said, then gave her some warm clothes. I didn't bring any of her clothes, so I let her wear old Arturia's clothes. Don't ask me what the hell they were doing in the storage of my book. Yay, she cheered again and pulled clothes from my hand and was about to undress in front of me when I stopped her. Hey! What the hell are you doing? Changing clothes? Don't you know proper manners? Manners? Sigh asterisk, go to other room and change. Don't take off your clothes in front of me ever again. But I am a boy. Go. When I yelled, she vanished an instant. I shook my head and then decided to first make some adjustments in the kitchen and then cook something. As I was preparing, I saw Mordred coming out wearing a loose nightie. She was still a little shorter than Arturia. You look cute in that outfit. I complimented her while placing dishes and plates. Humph looks girly though. She snorted with pink cheeks. We then sat at the table. I prepared normal vegetable soup with bread. It was a simple dish, yet I did see stars in her eyes and drool on her mouth from just aroma. She was about to eat when I stopped her. Mordred, first of all, I should answer your questions. Eh? Can't we do that after dinner? No. Fine, so. My name is Einar Sirius, but you can call me teacher for now. Then teach, I will ask you this. She then raised some questions like why I am doing this for her even after knowing that her mother was raising her for the sole purpose of claiming the throne. I just answered that she won't be able to betray the king once she starts serving under King Arthur. As to why I am doing this, I told her that she was an important person to me. Plus, I was close with Morgan, so looking after her was also my duty. It's no use teach. I am not like others, so you don't have to treat me like any other ordinary person. I saw sadness in her eyes. I inquired something about her from children in the church and they told me that there was indeed a monster girl who used to play with them, but after witnessing her growth, they distanced themselves from her. Mordred, no, from now on I will call you Molly from now on. Is that okay for you? But that sounds so girlish, dash. So it is okay for you. Listen, Molly, I am well aware of who you are, but I am not the type of person who treats others like puppets or toys, except some. Anyway, rest assured that my only intention is to look after you for the time being. So don't worry much and just focus on training. I smiled and caressed her cheek. Why you won't beat me? She asked with red cheeks, perhaps because of cold weather. Of course I will beat you if you don't listen to me. I smiled. Okay, I will listen. And she immediately agreed. Well, now I can finally handle children. After that, I taught her how to eat with a prayer. At least she knows the basics since Morgan was also teaching her some knowledge related to knighthood. Yum, her face lit up with a delightful smile when she took the first bite. I immediately recalled the expression Arthurian made when she first tasted my food. It was such a happy moment in my life. Even after so much happened, I still couldn't forget her. Man, this is only vegetable soup, but still tastes so delicious. Mother was right about your cooking. Hey, teach. Why are you crying? I woke up from my dream when Mordred shook me. Huh? I touched my face and felt tears in my eyes. I smiled and shook my head. Maybe I would never be able to forget about her. I wiped my tears then asked Mordred, so how is the food? It is awesome, teach. I can't believe that vegetables could taste this good. She forgot about my crying face and started praising vegetable soup. Haha, I am glad you like it. I will prepare even more delicious food for you, but for now, go to your bed and sleep well. Tomorrow we will start our new work. I patted her head and began preparing to sleep. Teach. Yes, Molly? Thank you. You're welcome, Molly. She smiled brightly with pink cheeks before running to her room. Maybe raising children is not so bad either. I thought then shook my head with a smile before going to my bedroom. Next day. So sorry, teach. The next day, Mordred can be heard apologizing while I was thinking about how to deal with her. She peed on the old Artoria's mattress that I prepared for her to sleep. I take my words back, raising children is quite troublesome. Einar's POV. Few weeks had been passed since I took Mordred under my wings. In that time I took care of many things like making proper management of this town, making a bounded field, and giving Mordred a self-training regime. After making Mata work in my place, I went home to see Mordred snoring under the tree with her cat. I crouched down and looked at her cute sleeping face. Zzz. She looked so much like Artoria, but she didn't share even a tiny bit of Artoria's personality. She was kinda like me, but I knew how to handle a person such as myself from Vivian and Scathack. I chuckled silently and pat her head softly. Number. TCH, soft. I don't know what the hell she was dreaming about me as I made a fist and smacked her head. Ayatea. She screamed and massaged her head while looking for the source of her hit. Teach? Sup, my cute little Mordred? Sleep well? I smiled. What are you talking about? I was just taking a little rest. Look, I am all fired up. She showed me running around few laps, ignoring a big bump on her head. Very good. Then let us begin your new training. I will teach you some moves regarding the sword. I said and took out a steel sword. She nodded and took out her own sword that I gifted to her. It was a normal sword with no magic abilities but was crafted beautifully. I had given her Saitama's training regime with additional workouts to swing sword 100 times. We then took our stances and tightened the grip on the hilt. Mordred, you have to strike me anywhere on my body for just once and you win. If you win, we will have meat on the dinner. I proposed a condition. All right. I am on it. She roared and dashed towards me with a vertical strike. Clang asterisk. What the? She widened her eyes wide when I blocked her most powerful strike with just one hand without taking even a step back. It's not over, darling, I said, and my kick connected her face, sending her few meters away. Arg. She groaned in pain while lying, but quickly recovered while looking at her annoyed face. What the hell, Teach? That was unfair. Hey, I never said that I won't be using my moves. Plus, getting the job done is the main goal. Come up and show me the fruit of your training, or you will be eating dinner in the tavern. No. She yelled and got up and came after me. In the next 15 minutes, I continued to beat her with my fists and kicks, but didn't put much force since I didn't know her overall body conditions. However, she didn't slow down and continued to get up to lend a couple of strikes. Huff asterisk, how are you, so strong? She asked while trying to get up. She was covered in bruises, and her face was unrecognizable from all the beating she received. This is the power of a knight of the round table. Plus, I am strongest on this island. I replied, then kicked away her. I was about to finish the spar when she suddenly leaped forward. I took my guard, but instead of a sword strike, she threw dirt in my eyes. My temporary blindness brought her a little bit of strength back as she sent a horizontal strike on my tummy. After that strike, she passed out on the ground. Phew, she is an idiot but a stubborn one. I sighed with a smile since that strike didn't even cut slightly due to my defensive buffs. I placed her head on my lap and called back Mono and transformed it into Pollen Garden. She woke up after a while and asked, did I get the job done? Yeah, congrats, you will get to eat meat at dinner. Yay. She smiled and started nestling her head while caressing my lap. Wow, Teach, your lap is so soft and warm. Maybe I should sleep here from now on. Hey, watch your hands. Hey, Teach, what the hell is between your leg? It's quite long. I shook my head at her shenanigans. After that, we went to the mansion. But instead of taking a rest, I brought her to another room. A large bed made of stone could be seen in the middle. A round ring was connected above the tablet-like bed. Primordial runes were also written on everything. Teach, what's that? It's a device that I invented to examine your body. Take off your clothes and lie down. I explained and took out Aldan. Mordred hesitated a bit with a flushed face before she took off clothes and lied down on the bed. I took a deep breath and calmed my little brother since she looks exactly like Arturia. Exactly no sex appeal, but still attractive for me. Hey Teach, how long are you gonna stare? I realized that I had been staring at her for a while. She also looked flustered. Excuse me. I coughed and began examining her body. The machine began to scan her while information started to appear on Aldan. That's troublesome. I noted she had a lot shorter life, maybe 10 or 11 years most. Plus there was indeed a magic crest on her heart, but it was hardly a problem for me since it was just normal fairy magic. Handling that kind of magic is child's play. The only main problem was her life expectancy, which is shorter. However, for a mage like me, it was not a problem. After the examination, I asked her to wear her clothes and help me to make dinner. Teach. Am I gonna be alright? She looked worried. Yeah, you will be fine. When I am around, you don't have to worry about a thing. I smiled and ruffled her hair. After that, I prepared meat for the dinner and we ate to our heart's content. As expected, someone related to Arturia, her appetite is also like an endless pit. She ate a whole 3 kilograms of meat in just 20 minutes. After saying goodnight, we went to our rooms. Just when I was about to fall asleep, I hear a knock and Mordred came in. Teach, can I sleep with you? She hesitantly asked. Okay, you can use my bed. I agreed since I knew that she was not used to sleeping well in an unknown place. Why are you sleeping on the floor? After my breakup with Arturia, I didn't know when, but I started to sleep on the floor. The reason was Arturia, who roams in my dreams and made it hard to forget about her. No reason. Anyway, if you want to pee, just wake me up. I said and closed my eyes, but then I felt someone lie on my arm. What are you doing? I asked dryly to Mordred, whose face was just inches away from mine. If Teach is sleeping on the floor, then I will sleep with you too. Since your body is warm, I won't feel cold too. She replied shamelessly. OMG, Oyakodon incoming. I heard Elaine. Whatever, don't wet here, I said and closed my eyes. Hey, it was just once. she retorted and then snuggled on my chest and wrapped her arms around me like koala, then closed her eyes. I sighed and decided to sleep in the hope not to find myself in prison in next day. Einar's POV. It had been several months since I had taken Mordred under me. In that time, I taught her swordplay with martial arts along and some writing skills. She also grew a little exactly the height of her counterpart, Arturia, i.e. 154 centimeters. Here she is growing just like that within few months while I was working my ass off just to grow a single centimeter. By the way, my height is 156 centimeters now, so I was satisfied since because of Rongaminia divinity, I didn't stop growing. Anyway, another thing I did was increasing Mordred's lifespan. I didn't tell her about this since I was using a complex divine rune and its effect would be revealed after more than 10 years. So until that, I decided to conceal that info from her. On those days, I also took few tours to my territory and capital but didn't interact with either Arturia or Merlin. I did come close to other knights of the Round Table who were a little ashamed of what happened last time, but I forgave them. I neither do have any energy nor reason for holding any grudge. My only grief was Arturia, who betrayed me in the end. That was something I would never forgive. Problems were piling up for the people of this isle, and except Camelot, every other city was facing endless trouble. This time, however, I didn't force my views about solving these problems since I don't care for these selfish people. Britons were becoming shameless as to put the blame of all their problems on Arturia. I also didn't contact Morgan in the meantime, so I just guessed that she went underground for now. Galahad was the only one nagging to work under me here in Joneton, but I denied the proposal. He would definitely conflict with Mordred if he finds out. Plus, he was the core knight of the Round Table, so I couldn't take risk of him finding out about Mordred. Teach, my butt is starting to get sore. Shut up and focus. It was not what you guys are thinking. We were in the middle of a hunt in the wild one day. It was mid-June, so it was warm to teach her some techniques about surviving in wild, and we had been sitting on behind a bush and waiting for animals to pass so that we could sneak attack and get some meat and fur. I want to teach her something new, but as expected from this brat. She started to complain just when we were in the middle of finding some targets. But you are using magic pants to ignore the coldness. Because I could use magic, but you can't. So you should have to rely upon what is at your disposal. I explained to her properly. I tried to teach her some basic magic spells, but she was unable to learn even a single spell unlike Arturia except Mana Burst and Instincts, which are Arturia's basic core skills. But then I found something amiss from what she said. Wait, how do you know that I use magic on my pants? WL, cough asterisk when you go for a bath, I sneaked in and tried sniff your clothes, I mean to try out how it feels to wear magical clothes. But please forgive me teach, it was just for once. I promised that I would never do that again. I could only stare at her in a stupor. Now that I think about it, I had been wondering how the hell my pants get sticky when I came back from the bath. I shook my head and then recalled that I did the same with Arturia's clothes. The only difference was that I never left any clues. Is that retribution for my sins? I shook my head from these useless thoughts and warned Mordred, never do that again or forget about meat for a month. I won't teach. Okay, keep your mouth shut and let's change the spot. AI, teach. With soft steps, we went to another place and saw some deer, but... Hey teach, what is that deer doing on top of another deer? And why is he vibrating like that? It is exactly what she just asked. In short, it was mating season and they were having sex. It is. I didn't know how should I explain that to her. Mordred, they are fucking each other to have offsprings. I am pretty sure that I would dig my own grave by saying that as she would ask more and more. It is something you shouldn't concern yourself. Then should we kill them? What? No. Let them finish first. We then decided to wait for them to finish their holy ritual. While watching I noticed Mordred was beet red, so I smacked her head lightly. Ow, what was that about, teach? Why are you blushing? What? I don't know, but aren't you also blushing? I then realized that I was also feeling hot and was dreaming of doing this with Arturia, Scat Hack, and her. Shut up and don't talk. I shook my head while she looked at me with a look, what the hell is this guy's problem? Almost 15 minutes had passed and there was no sign of them finishing anytime soon. The male deer was like a freaking H protagonist who becomes energetic just after taking a minute of break. Mordred, make your aim and kill one. I have had enough of this. Which one, the one riding or the one being ridden? The one riding. And so she took her aim and shot straight at male deer's head. Sorry Pa, but you have achieved the ultimate desire of your life, but most importantly, I was fucking jealous of him who had a girl to fuck while I was still a damn virgin for freaking 40 years. After skinning the animal and taking the meat, we decided to rest in the tavern of a village near the forest. I am so sorry, but we only have a single room to spare, Lord Einar. The receptionist apologized. No problem, we are used to sleep with each other. It was Mordred who blurted that out. Everyone in the pub glared at us with weird looks since we do look like minors according to our heights. I glared at Mordred and tried hard to stop myself to give a good beating in front of everyone. She, on the other hand, started to sweat and looked away from fear. I then agreed and asked her to bring something to eat while we went to an empty table. Hey, Teach. Why are those guys licking each other's lips? Mordred again asked something that I didn't want to answer. I turned around and found a couple smooching. The man was even fondling the woman's breast while his other hand was reaching to her nether region. I went to their table and slammed my hand. Don't do that here or... I glared at them with instant, killing intent. They became frightened and ran away. I then came back to my seat and looked at Mordred with face, one more question and I will beat the shit out of you. After that, we had a peaceful meal with no one enough balls to disrupt us. Then we came back to our room. As usual, I offered Mordred to sleep on the bed while I on the floor, but she snuggled back to my arms. In past, I tried to stop her from sleeping with me by beating her or threatening to cut her meal, but she didn't listen even once since she just loved to sleep in my arms. I then decided to let her do whatever she wants for the time being since I only got a year with her and she knew that. What? I asked due to her being staring at me with scornful gazes. Teach, you said that you would answer my every question, but you didn't tell me what those deer and people were doing. I shook my head since I indeed told her that I would answer her every question. Of course, I refused to answer some affairs related to the round table and the person named Arthurian, so I was in pretty bad shape as to how I should explain the matters related to love. Look Mordred, those deer, let's say that it was something you will find soon on your own. As for those people, it is called kissing and people who love each other tend to kiss like that who would soon marry. When explaining, I felt a deep pain in my chest. How wonderful it would be if it is true. Arthurian and I used to kiss and made several promises and yet. Teach, do you love me? She asked with hopeful eyes. I knew it was coming. As your guardian, yes. As someone of the opposite gender, no. Mordred, let me make this clear, I have taken you under me so that you should learn something important and develop your own will rather than doing what your mother told you to do. If you force your personal feelings, then I would have to return you to your original place. So don't make me regret my decision. I explained briefly. I knew it would come to this. Even though I told her this, I myself had developed some feelings for her, but immediately crushed those feelings since I didn't have any more strength to give my heart to someone else. I am sorry, Teach. Please forgive me. She looked sad and immediately apologized when I showed my displeasure. I smiled and caressed her cheek. It's fine, but the real reason is that my heart is already crushed. I won't ever fall in love. Something I am not very good at. Anyway, stop talking and close your eyes, we have the training to hit in the morning. I explained and closed my eyes to sleep. After several minutes, she was still not asleep and had been staring at me. She then closed the distance between our lips and kissed me. I am sorry, Teach. I don't know what this love is, but there is a feeling inside me to do something for you and make us happy. I like you, Teach, a lot. Zzzzzzzzzzz. And she fell asleep just like that. Shortly after, I opened my eyes and looked at her with trouble on my face. What the hell I should do? I shook my head and the best solution for all these problems is just to ignore them. I was too tired to answer unwanted love. Mordred's POV. If there is one unfair person in this world then it would be my most beloved teacher, Einar, Sirius, Dulac. As long as I remember when I regained my consciousness, there was one goal for me that was set from the beginning and that is to dethrone King Arthur. Living in a small city called Leona, I get used to the peace that was brought to this city. Due to me being a special human according to my mother, I was given little freedom to roam around the town. When I saw children playing, I also had desires to play with them, but I was always brought back to reality when they called me a monster for my ever-changing growth. 1 month, I am 5 years old, then another month, I am 8. Doesn't matter. At least that's what I always reminded myself. A puppet born with this function shouldn't develop other desires, shouldn't she? That's what I always thought. I limit myself only stare at children and imagining how it would like to be playing with them. Mordred, a traitorous knight who joined the Round Table just to dethrone King Arthur and make his mother the queen, at least that's how it should have been until I met the very person who changed my life. When I first saw his kind smile that he showed while distributing food to children, I imagined myself in their spot and smiled happily. How wonderful it would be if I was one of those children. Unlike them, I have a mother, but I never received any kind of happiness that a child is supposed to receive from her parent, yet those children looked so happy and I can't help but felt a little envy. Teach, no, he was some nameless priest for me when I first saw him. However, I was not able to escape from his sharp gazes and soon came under his radar. When he asked me about my name and looked at me with deep hatred and loath, it petrified the very soul inside me. My every inch screamed to just run away, yet I was not able to escape from his clutches. Tears began falling from my eyes, and I prayed to live just for single hope to smile like those children. As if listening to my prayers, he let me go and offered kindness in return. He offered me what call cream buns as an act of apology. They were freaking delicious. Anyway, I was able to get away from him with fear in my heart and little hope to meet him again. When I came back home, I received punishment from my mother since the person I told my name was none other than the strongest knight of the Round Table, Einar Sirius du Lac. He was considered to be even stronger than both King Arthur and Merlin combined. Everyone in the upper echelon feared him despite his short looks and charming nature. If not for his endless dispute with nobles and other royalties, he would have his backings to the throne. Even my mother, who never considered any knight or even King Arthur a threat, feared him and called him Lord Einar as a sign of respect. At that moment, I stopped thinking about the future since I would soon be dead. Finding a traitor nurturing under a loyal knight's nose, no one would let me go and my head was bound to be cut off, but nothing like that happened. Instead of death, what I received was a gentle embrace that I had ever received. Instead of outright killing me, he gave me a chance to live and see things through myself. Perhaps it was his distrustfulness for other knights of the Round Table and King Arthur. He didn't show me any hate but unimaginable kindness that I was not worthy of. His first mistake. He then took me under his wings and called me a cute girl. I hate being called a girl for a reason that was embedded in my soul the moment I was born. Acting like a boy was part of me, another limb of a homunculus that ordinary humans wouldn't understand, so it was hard to accept myself as a girl even if I wanted to. And yet, when he called me girl, I found it a little delightful. He then took me to another place to protect me, to train me, and to give me the happiness and memories that become the most important part of my life, a reason that made me unable to betray his trust. Living with him, I get the reason why everyone fears him. He fears none and is confident in what he is doing. He beats me a lot whenever I did some mistakes. Not only beating, but his other punishments were also very harsh, and he knew exactly what I fear the most. Being beaten was not new as I was used to it due to my witch mother, but his lessons were for my own sake rather than the selfish desires of my mother. He is the best cook, he is the best teacher, he is just the best at everything. A perfect man who is just the best for his own good. However, when it comes to feelings, he is like a wall. Arthurian, I have heard that name from his mouth several times, and she was the one bitch who had betrayed him. If I found her someday, I would likely kill her for betraying a kind person like Teach. Since he ordered me to never spoke about Arthurian, I never dared to ask again. I know that love shall not be possible since I was a boy, but my heart fell for him the moment he showed this ungrateful person kindness. I knew that the consequences would be horrible, but if just once I could do something for him to make him look at me as a girl who likes him, I would face even death happily. However, his heart is already like broken glass, no matter what you pour, it will ultimately fall off. Teach, where are we going? I asked Teach one day when we were climbing a mountain at night. Mordred, since today is your last day as my apprentice, I would like to show you something you will never forget. As usual, he was just kind. A year after he took me in, it was finally the time I go back to my mother. I didn't want to go, but I can't simply be a brat and nag him to look after me every day, so I decided to go away for his sake. After reaching a peak, what greeted my sight was a colorful sky. Wow! I can't help but exclaim with delight. As if colorful curtains were dancing from the heavens in the night. It was one of the most beautiful sights, with the best goes to the person standing in front of me. Mordred, these are called auroras, and these. Teach then started to explain, which I had no idea what he was talking about. The only thing I get is that it is something related to science. After that, we prepared loggings and food to spend the night here. After eating to my heart's content, we then sat under the glittering sky. Teach, I don't want to go. I can't help but pray like that. I wrapped my arms around his neck and snuggled my head in his soft and charming chest sitting on his lap. I don't care if I am a boy or girl, but at this time I just wished to receive his love for the last time as a human being. You know that does not gonna happen. He was still a strict teacher even if he spoils me a little. Teach, I love you. I looked at his face with hopeful eyes. As your teacher, I also love you. Against my expectations, he just smiled with a little sadness on his face and rubbed my hair. I love you, Einar. I love you too, my Molly. That's what I would like to hear, then we would kiss and have lots of children like the receptionist of tavern taught me how to make kids. But even knowing our real intentions, we hold ourselves back from crossing the line. Me being immature with a goal to enter Knights of the Round Table to see if the ideal king deserves treachery and him being torn because of love betrayal. On that day, I swear on my short life to never betray his trust as long as he is in the Round Table and to kill that Arthurian person with my own hands for betraying a kind person like my beloved Teach. Einar's POV. It was year 8th since King Arthur conquered Camelot and reunited this whole isle. With him was the strongest force of the strongest knights of the time. Whenever a problem comes, he stands for people and makes every effort to make them happy. An ideal king that the people of this island wanted was granted them. A supreme king that never faced any defeat in his life should rule on the people with the bright radiance of his sword, but the problems keep coming as if the land itself refused to help its people. If drought, bad harvest, and poverty were not enough when even invaders starting to make problems. In short, the land was cursed. Although the solutions were available, what kind of king wants to make the sacrifice of losing some territories? What's the matter, Sir Einar? It was Mordred who asked while massaging my shoulders. She joined the Knights of the Round Table shortly after I left her in Morgan's care. Since her strength was similar to Artoria as her clone, she didn't take long to make her way to the upper hierarchy. It was hard to look at her in red and silver armor that explained her more of an executioner than a knight. I knew that Morgan had specifically designed this armor to hide her true gender and identity, at least she should have made it more elegant. Nothing. I don't think that problems could be solved from just killing rebels or keeping up with invaders. I shook my head. My relationship with Artoria was now that of a king and a knight. I was already brought back to reality, and now I was just giving duty as a mage/knight only. Even with my knowledge, matters weren't taking a good turn at all. Although a major portion of this isle was suffering from drought, I had already helped to make some dams to reserve water, but the southern part was still suffering from numerous problems. There was hardly a peaceful month without the need of war council or camping to crush rebels or invaders. King? There was hardly any knight who had accepted her wholeheartedly. Well, it didn't matter to me as we have severed our ties a long time ago. Uncle, you should, never mind. It was my nephew and my most trusted vassal, Galahad. He was looking at Mordred as if she had taken his favorite plushie. Speak, Galahad. Don't act like a drama queen. I chucked. Well, Uncle Einar, I know it is against your views, but it would have been better if you take the charge. In short, he wanted me to become king. You know, your head could have been flying any moment. I glared at Galahad coldly, but that man who had a greater trust in me than anyone didn't even wince and remained calmed. There was indeed a group that was formed that wanted me to dethrone the king and make me king without my authorization. 2 generals, who were the next candidates of next Knights of the Round Table, were taking the charge of this group while they had the backing of several other nobles. What I did was very simple. I ordered Galahad to execute those generals and all other nobles publicly and made myself clear that I won't lead these greedy people. My ruthlessness brought enough fear to those nobles to think 100 times before even making that kind of plan. I know Uncle Einar, and as I said earlier, my life will always be at your disposal. Galahad smiled and bowed with a hand on his chest. He was quite a troublesome fellow who had blind trust in me. Galahad, as I explained to you, I have no reason to look after greedy people. And most of all, I won't get anything out of it. I explained in simple terms. You are right, Uncle Einar, even I sometimes lost my motivation when those people show their displeasure even after saving them. And Uncle Einar, I think it's my turn to massage your shoulders. Oi, newbie, get away from my uncle. He said and then told Mordred to sit down. Get lost. You have already spent the entire night drinking with Sir Einar yesterday. Mordred retorted, and then they entered in another quarrel. I don't know why they looked like members of my harem. I then got up from my seat and went to the window to take some fresh air. Looking down on peaceful streets was kind of relaxing. I had also gone through a tremendous change. My height reached up to 167 centimeters in these years, and it was all due to my divinity reaching A+++. Now I don't have any limitations from using half-spirit forms of my Chastiefol. In surplus, I could recite 2 divine runes a day, with leaving enough mana to fight for a full day. The grand spell that I was making was at its completion that would take another year and a half. We were in the room where another meeting at the round table was taking place, but out of sheer boredom I came here early, but these 2 followed me in hope of spending some time with me. Soon King Arthur and other knights of the round table entered the room and the meeting began. Merlin was standing behind Artoria, who seemed to be a calm and collective mage, but as soon as our eyes met, he shuddered with fear. The reason was that I tortured him the previous year for all of his blunders and bestowed fear in his heart that he would never play with human emotions. From that day, he never slept with any girl. Anyway, another report was sorted out and revealed another rebellion from the south. And again, she asked others to help her in crushing rebellion. I apologize, King Arthur, but I won't be able to continue. It was the voice of Tristan. His statement brought a squall among knights. In short, he is going to leave. He stood from his seat and was about to leave when stopped after sensing numerous daggers circulating his head. Sir Einar, please take back your weapon. Artoria requested, and I abided by. My job was simply listening to her, so I did. I dematerialized Chastiefol increase and put my hand on my chin, waiting for this boring meeting to be over. Sir Tristan, you are an honorable knight, and as your king, I must watch for your needs. Please take the authorization of the land and live the life you want. Artoria smiled and didn't stop Tristan. Although her intentions seemed noble at first, I was well aware that she would probably use these knights to remain in their territory and act as bait against invaders. That was the mindset of someone who had disregarded human emotions. Well, she was not the only one who disregarded human emotions. I had somewhat become the same. Every knight showed a little disappointment, including me, as if the king does not understand the hearts of men. Those were Tristan's last words that were like a curse to knights and king as he took his leave. After the meeting, I left the castle and went to a pub and saw Tristan drinking alone. I silently sat beside him and ordered a drink. Sir Einar, I am so dash. You don't need to, Sir Tristan. I am well aware of your state. You won't survive long. He looked at me with a sad smile and spoke, Sir Einar, you are such a perfect person if. Never mind. I would just like to thank you for all your efforts and kindness that you showed to this lowly knight. He stood up from his seat and bowed with one knee. Time will fly away, I recalled a single sentence. Huh? He looked at me with visible shock on his face. I then took out a potion and gave it to Tristan. It will heal you completely, including the poison in your body. Go to your territory, Isolde is waiting for you. And don't even try to deny my offer, or I will torture your soul. Tristan first stared at me for a while, before taking the potion from my hand. He bowed me one final time, but before leaving, I told him one last sentence, do me a favor and never come back here. I will. Tristan smiled and left. I then gulped the drink in one go and sighed. Artoria, I will see how far are you going to take this farce? Einar's POV. It was year 8 since King Arthur conquered Camelot and reunited this whole isle. With him was the strongest force of the strongest knights of the time. Whenever a problem comes, he stands for people and makes every effort to make them happy. An ideal king that the people of this island wanted was granted them. A supreme king that never faced any defeat in his life should rule on the people with the bright radiance of his sword, but the problems keep coming as if the land itself refused to help its people. If drought, bad harvest, and poverty were not enough, when even invaders starting to make problems. In short, the land was cursed. Although the solutions were available, what kind of king wants to make the sacrifice of losing some territories? What's the matter, Sir Einar? It was Mordred who asked while massaging my shoulders. She joined the Knights of the Round Table shortly after I left her in Morgan's care. Since her strength was similar to Artoria as her clone, she didn't take long to make her way to the upper hierarchy. It was hard to look at her in red and silver armor that explained her more of an executioner than a knight. I knew that Morgan had specifically designed this armor to hide her true gender and identity, at least she should have made it more elegant. Nothing. I don't think that problems could be solved from just killing rebels or keeping up with invaders. I shook my head. My relationship with Arturia was now that of a king and a knight. I was already brought back to reality, and now I was just giving duty as a mage/knight only. Even with my knowledge, matters weren't taking a good turn at all. Although a major portion of this all was suffering from drought, I had already helped to make some dams to reserve water, but the southern part was still suffering from numerous problems. There was hardly a peaceful month without the need of war council or camping to crush rebels or invaders. King? There was hardly any knight who had accepted her wholeheartedly. Well, it didn't matter to me, as we have severed our ties a long time ago. Uncle, you should, never mind. It was my nephew and my most trusted vessel, Galahad. He was looking at Mordred as if she had taken his favorite plushie. Speak, Galahad. Don't act like a drama queen. I chucked. Well, Uncle Einar, I know it is against your views, but it would have been better if you take the charge. In short, he wanted me to become king. You know, your head could have been flying any moment. I glared at Galahad coldly, but that man who had a greater trust in me than anyone didn't even wince and remained calmed. There was indeed a group that was formed that wanted me to dethrone the king and make me king without my authorization. 2 generals, who were the next candidates of next Knights of the Round Table, were taking the charge of this group while they had the backing of several other nobles. What I did was very simple. I ordered Galahad to execute those generals and all other nobles publicly and made myself clear that I won't lead these greedy people. My ruthlessness brought enough fear to those nobles to think 100 times before even making that kind of plan. I know Uncle Einar, and as I said earlier, my life will always be at your disposal. Galahad smiled and bowed with a hand on his chest. He was quite a troublesome fellow who had blind trust in me. Galahad, as I explained to you, I have no reason to look after greedy people. And most of all, I won't get anything out of it. I explained in simple terms. You are right, Uncle Einar, even I sometimes lost my motivation when those people show their displeasure even after saving them. And Uncle Einar, I think it's my turn to massage your shoulders. Oi, newbie, get away from my uncle. He said, and then told Mordred to sit down. Get lost. You have already spent the entire night drinking with Sir Einar yesterday. Mordred retorted, and then they entered in another quarrel. I don't know why they looked like members of my harem. I then got up from my seat and went to the window to take some fresh air. Looking down on peaceful streets was kind of relaxing. I had also gone through a tremendous change. My height reached up to 167 centimeters in these years, and it was all due to my divinity reaching A+++. Now I don't have any limitations from using half-spirit forms of my Chastiefol. In surplus, I could recite 2 divine runes a day, with leaving enough mana to fight for a full day. The grand spell that I was making was at its completion that would take another year and a half. We were in the room where another meeting at the round table was taking place, but out of sheer boredom I came here early, but these 2 followed me in hope of spending some time with me. Soon King Arthur and other knights of the round table entered the room and the meeting began. Merlin was standing behind Arturia, who seemed to be a calm and collective mage, but as soon as our eyes met, he shuddered with fear. The reason was that I tortured him the previous year for all of his blunders and bestowed fear in his heart that he would never play with human emotions. From that day, he never slept with any girl. Anyway, another report was sorted out and revealed another rebellion from the south. And again, she asked others to help her in crushing rebellion. I apologize, King Arthur, but I won't be able to continue. It was the voice of Tristan. His statement brought a squall among knights. In short, he is going to leave. He stood from his seat and was about to leave when stopped after sensing numerous daggers circulating his head. Sir Einar, please take back your weapon. Arturia requested, and I abided by. My job was simply listening to her, so I did. I dematerialized Chastiefol increase and put my hand on my chin, waiting for this boring meeting to be over. Sir Tristan, you are an honorable knight, and as your king, I must watch for your needs. Please take the authorization of the land and live the life you want. Arturia smiled and didn't stop Tristan. Although her intentions seemed noble at first, I was well aware that she would probably use these knights to remain in their territory and act as bait against invaders. That was the mindset of someone who had disregarded human emotions. Well, she was not the only one who disregarded human emotions. I had somewhat become the same. Every knight showed a little disappointment, including me, as if the king does not understand the hearts of men. Those were Tristan's last words that were like a curse to knights and king as he took his leave. After the meeting, I left the castle and went to a pub and saw Tristan drinking alone. I silently sat beside him and ordered a drink. Sir Einar, I am so dash. You don't need to, Sir Tristan. I am well aware of your state. You won't survive long. He looked at me with a sad smile and spoke, Sir Einar, you are such a perfect person if. Never mind. I would just like to thank you for all your efforts and kindness that you showed to this lowly knight. He stood up from his seat and bowed with one knee. Time will fly away, I recalled a single sentence. Huh? He looked at me with visible shock on his face. I then took out a potion and gave it to Tristan. It will heal you completely, including the poison in your body. Go to your territory, Isolde is waiting for you. And don't even try to deny my offer, or I will torture your soul. Tristan first stared at me for a while, before taking the potion from my hand. He bowed me one final time, but before leaving, I told him one last sentence, do me a favor and never come back here. I will. Tristan smiled and left. I then gulped the drink in one go and sighed. Artoria, I will see how far are you going to take this farce? Yeah. Sparks have been lit. Anyway, enjoy Omake. Omake 11. Einar was having a party with his fellow members of Knights of the Round Table along with some other servants. Einar. He was drinking alone when he heard the soft and cutest voice in humankind's existence. Artoria, I was about to, who is he? Einar turned around as his eyes fell on his beloved wife and about to ask something when his sight fell on a handsome man she was accompanied with. The person was a handsome man with charming looks with hair and eyes color similar to Artoria's. Einar, he is, my counterpart from a parallel timeline, Arthur Pendragon. Artoria introduced her other real male self to her husband. Sir Einar, I have heard so much about you. As you have guessed, I am Arthur Pendragon from a parallel universe. Nice to meet you. Arthur smiled with pink cheeks and offered a handshake. Hey, Sir Arthur. Einar smiled wryly and also shook his hand. He didn't know what to even talk about with Arthur. Oh Arthur, I am Einar Sirius and one who bangs you but not you at the same time. Einar would die because of embarrassment. Einar, he wants something to talk with you. I will excuse myself. Artoria said with a pleading tone and left the two men alone. Einar smiled wryly and then offered him a seat on the table. So Sir Arthur, what do you want to talk with me? Einar asked while wondering why the dude in front of him was blushing. Well, the thing is. Just like your hidden legend. My timeline is also similar to yours. Arthur blushed and blinked his eyes several times, glancing at Einar. Dude, stop blushing. Of course, Einar couldn't blurt that out since Arthur was a guest. I didn't quite understand. Einar tried to avoid the topic as he was sensing a hidden danger. Well, the thing is. I also have a hidden lover, she is a fairy like you. Her name is Elena Sirius, my love, Arthur spoke and blushed. I see. I didn't know that I also have my counterpart, Alea, I will fucking destroy you. But I am not a girl, haha. Einar said and laughed out the matter. It is true, but when I saw you, you kind of reminded me of her. She was as kind and as beautiful as you, Sir Einar dash. But I am not a girl, Sir Arthur. Einar didn't want to continue this fuck train. Haha, I can understand you a little. Elena was also a possessive fairy like you and almost killed Guinevere and my sister if not for my intervention. Anyway, I just want to have few chats to match some events that match my timeline. Arthur said and offered Einar a drink. Oh, that. Of course, we should share our experience, but no sexual stuff, okay? Einar smiled and accepted the drink. You bet. And then both of them instantly became friends and spent the rest of their time chatting. Ugh. I shouldn't drink alcohol from now on. Not good for fairies. Einar woke up from his hangover as he found himself in his room. After the party was over, Einar didn't remember anything after he trusted his body to Artoria. Ugh, why my ass is hurting. He scratched his ass, but then detected someone under the blanket, sleeping beside him. Oh well, time to charge some Artoria energy. He said as he hugged Artoria. But what is this? When did Artoria become so tall and so handsome? Einar widened his eyes and started to shake from fear as he uncovered the person sleeping with him. Oh hey, Sir Einar, I must say, it was a wild night. It was the voice of none other than his beloved wife's counterpart, Arthur Pendragon. Einar's expression turned who just saw a demon. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Wilnet Duverne. Yame Tancho. If you liked the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll stay here until next time.